9.18 The Russian Winter and the Counteroffensive. 9.18 The Russian Winter and the Counteroffensive. No army has ever defeated the Russian winter. In December, the Russians began their counteroffensive, using reinforcements from Siberia. They made progress, pushing the Germans back on some fronts as much as 150 miles. But in an astonishing feat of endurance and in appalling conditions, the German resolve held firm. By the summer of 1942, the Germans were in place for a renewed offensive. Hitler sent a Sixth Army to capture the oil fields in the Caucasus Mountains, with the goal to first capture the city of Stalingrad en route. The battle for the city of Stalingrad, bitterly fought from building to building, lasted from August to November 1942. Neither side was able to gain absolute control of the city from the other. The Germans, even if they achieved possession, were in grave danger, as a Russian campaign was launched on November 19 with the goal of encircling the Germans who now occupied much of the city. Within 4 days, 200,000 Germans were surrounded. The commander of the Sixth Army, General Friedrich Paulus, sent a request to Hitler to begin a withdrawal. His request was denied. By mid-January 1943, Paulus protested to Hitler that it was beyond human strength to continue fighting under these circumstances. Hitler's reply was the same as he had sent to the commanders near Moscow a year earlier: not an inch of ground was to be given up. The Sixth Army would do its historic duty at Stalingrad and fight to the last man. 1. On January 31, 1943, von Paulus, with just 91,000 survivors of the original army of 330,000, surrendered to the Russians. Stalingrad's defense cost the Soviets over 1 million soldiers, but the Germans were now on the defensive as the Soviets steadily pushed them towards the west. This was the turning point of the war in the east in favor of the Soviets. The Germans pulled back to consolidate after Stalingrad, which gave the Russians time to recover from the initial blitzkrieg assault of the previous years. In July 1942, the Germans launched another offensive, this time against the city of Kursk, 280 miles southwest of Moscow. The offensive would be one of the largest armored vehicle battles in history, involving 2,928 German and 5,128 Russian tanks. After 11 days and almost 1 million combined casualties, the Germans admitted defeat once again. The Soviet force had become unstoppable. Stalin was willing to sacrifice men and material to achieve victory no matter the cost. 2. Throughout the rest of 1943 and into 1944, the Germans were forced to fight a strategic withdrawal, slowly yielding land back to the Red Army. The Russians were bleeding the German army dry. By the summer of 1944, Germany was fighting the other allies in France and Italy, and so was now facing a war on 3 fronts. The German military was diminishing in size, and resources for survival were being depleted faster than they anticipated. As Germans continued to withdraw, Russian troops seized the opportunity and entered Hungary in the winter of 1944. By the spring of 1945, the Soviets had reclaimed all of the territory previously conquered by the Germans. The Red Army continued to attack the Germans, pressing them into Eastern Europe. Large portions of the German army were cut off and surrounded.